Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. We just broke down the potential future of Denver, but in the present time, the Broncos are going to welcome America's team to the Mile High, a rematch of Super Bowl 12 when Dallas beat Denver 27-10. But it's been all Broncos as of late as they've won 7 straight over the Cowboys. Of course, Broncos head coach Sean Payton spent time coaching in Dallas in the early 2000s, but ultimately both of these teams could use a win. It's the NFL's best offense facing off against the NFL's best defense. So let's get into the game plan with our experts, JP Acosta and Ryan Wilson, joining the program. Fellas, good to see you. We're actually going to start on the Denver side of this because I think everyone is still scratching their heads trying to figure out what the heck changed for the Broncos in that fourth quarter? A 33-point comeback spearheaded by Bo Nix. It was one of the largest comebacks in NFL history. Ryan, have you processed what you saw on Sunday, and how the heck did they do it?
I probably processed it a little better than Brian Dable and Jackson Dart. And Brian Burns, for that matter. But it is still hard to wrap your brain around the idea of being up 19 if you're the Giants going into that fourth quarter, then somehow giving up 33 points. And I think it's a great story in terms of how it ended for Denver. But I still have a ton of questions about that offense, which has sputtered for large parts of this season. They don't have any real big wins this year, even though they're 5-2. They beat a battled or a beaten-up Eagles team. But the other wins leave you with more questions than answers. And I think we need to see a little bit more consistency out of the offense and Sean Payton, and I think he would admit to that. But they weren't able to do anything for the first 45 or so minutes. So we'll see what happens this week. A win's a win, and you're going to take it in the NFL. But it's not like I suddenly feel great about this Broncos team after they've lost to the Colts and the Chargers. And I'd be hard-pressed to have an argument where I think the Broncos are better than either one of those teams as we currently sit here. That can obviously change, but in terms of the first 7 games, and most recently that last game on Sunday, great win, still a lot of questions about Denver.
Yeah, and I think I agree with Ryan here. There's a lot of questions that still are had about the Broncos offense, specifically about the sustainability of their offense, especially if the run game isn't working. Can Bo Nix move this offense on his arm? But that's exactly what happened in the fourth quarter of the Giants game. That was the most chaotic fourth quarter I think I've ever seen in the NFL in terms of just things are just happening. Things are flying around. There's pass interferences that aren't pass interferences. There's field goals. There's people chasing after referees at the ends of games. But I think for the Broncos continue this trend and continue this to improve on this victory, they need to get Bo Nix to start passing the ball better in early passing situations. If they can start using that passing game to move the ball instead of relying on a run game that's going to be without their starting left guard, Ben Powers, I think that'll help create some more sustainability within that offense.
Let's keep the conversation with Bo Nix, guys, because he went from being like everyone was booing him, they wanted him off the field through the first 3 quarters, and then he just turns it up in the fourth. JP, you mentioned it. He was using his legs. He actually told our Melanie Collins after the game, quote, "I feel bad for the people that left early." I think the people that left early would have liked to see a complete performance from Bo Nix, not just a fourth quarter performance. So, JP, to your point, how can Bo get off to a fast start to help this Denver offense?
I think to help Bo Nix and the Broncos offense get off to a quicker start against the Cowboys, they need to start involving him with his legs and use a quick game early in the game. I think getting him involved in the run game, using some designated QB runs instead of just option plays and packaged RPOs, I think that'll get him into the flow of the game. It gives the defense another piece to account for in the run game. It forces you to answer a lot of questions when it comes to playing the run against light boxes, which is exactly what Dallas wants to do. So if you can involve him in the run game a little bit more, you might be able to open up some holes downfield.
No, I think JP's exactly right, and obviously he's watched this tape under a microscope. But even just going back and watching Bo Nix in that fourth quarter, and Jackson Dart as well, we saw Bo Nix, in fact, win with his legs and win pretty easily. And I don't think anyone is now surprised that Bo Nix is a good athlete. Maybe last year when we saw him run a little more, people perhaps didn't see that from not watching Oregon and Auburn prior, and that's okay. But the other thing is when you go back and see some of the throws that Bo made, a lot of question marks, especially down the field. In the fourth quarter, he connected on those throws, and those are some big boy throws that we've seen him be pretty spotty on so far this season. He's not playing nearly at the level he was a year ago, but you could argue that the offense isn't either. I think the conversation that JP is having is right. You need more balance. Sean Payton, I don't think, is suddenly not a very good play caller. I just think they haven't been able to connect consistently. The good news is you're 5-2, not even halfway point of the season. You can fix these things, but if you don't fix them, it's not sustainable, and you might get to the playoffs, but it's going to be a one-and-done situation. So good problems to have. I would imagine, if you're a team that's not 5-2, but certainly things that need to be fixed.
Yeah, it's just been a roller coaster, I think, of just the emotions, the statistics. It is interesting, though, our research team giving us this nugget. Bo Nix and Dak Prescott nearly with identical stat lines coming into this game. And Ryan, you know my favorite subject is a guy named Dak Prescott. I love that everyone is finally coming around to the notion that he is an MVP caliber talent. I know with the injuries and some of the interceptions a few years ago, it's kind of gotten messy. I'm curious, though, Ryan, from your perspective, why is it this year for Dak Prescott that he's starting to see all of the things click? Is it just the weapons that he has that he's throwing to? Because he's doing this, and we'll talk about it in a minute, with a terrible defense.
Yeah, truly and utterly terrible. So the fact that he's doing it at this level is even more impressive. Honestly, Haley, and you know this because you're a diehard Cowboys fan, I think a lot of it is just he's been unlucky in the past. There have been some decisions he's made that he would want back in previous years. He's very low in interceptions this year, among the best in terms of not turning the ball over, one of the best in terms of completion percentage, in terms of total yards, in terms of touchdowns, and obviously touchdowns to interception ratio. It helps that he's throwing to George Pickens when CeeDee Lamb wasn't out there, so that helped alleviate the loss of not having your number one receiver. Jake Ferguson's playing at a high level. Javonte Williams in the run game is starting to get things going, so I think that balance offensively has certainly helped Dak Prescott, but there's no mistake about it. He is, in fact, playing at MVP level. He has earned all the recognition he has gotten thus far this season. And the other thing is, and you could probably ask Bo Nix and Sean Payton, the stats might look the same on paper in black and white, but you can ask anyone on planet Earth, and they're taking Dak Prescott every single day of the week over Bo Nix if you need to start a team tomorrow for the rest of the season. I'm not saying Bo Nix is a bad quarterback, but the reality is Dak has outplayed him by a large margin through 7 weeks.
And I absolutely agree with Ryan when it comes to the sustainability of the Cowboys offense. It feels like it's in a much better place than it has been in previous years. In the past few years, Dak Prescott has been asked to do everything in this offense. The margin for error is so wildly thin that if Dak Prescott is even off a little bit, it turns into a chaotic play, like a sack, like an interception, or an incompletion. With the sustainability of the run game improving, I think one of the better hires this offseason has been Clayton Adams coming over from Arizona to be the Cowboys offensive coordinator. The run game has been so much cooler, and in adding George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, who are such great complements to each other, Dak Prescott's margin for error is a little bit wider. He's able to push the ball downfield. He's able to make the tight window throws that he's always been able to, but it's been kind of coached out of him over the last few years because they've had to win so far in the margins in the quick game and intermediate passing game. So now you're really seeing Dak Prescott sort of unleash the deep ball, and it looks really fun.
Dak Prescott picking up his 79th career win. He passed our colleague Tony Romo for third most wins in franchise history. So they are doing some good things when it comes to the offense. Producer Jack was asking me for some players earlier for a parlay we're doing later in the show, and every time he asked me for a offensive position, it was easy for me to name a Cowboy. He asked me for a running back. I said Javonte Williams. He asked me for a tight end, Ryan, and I said Jake Ferguson. The list goes on and on. But if he were to ask me about the other side of the ball, I don't know that there's a player that I could nominate on this defense to be a successful player. And when you think about being a championship team, JP, what's the old saying? Defense wins championships. Is there a world where you can see this defense making it through the way they're playing currently and the Cowboys being a championship team, or does something have to give on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I really don't. I think something has to give on the defensive side of the ball. Where the Cowboys want to win as a defensive unit is creating negative plays. They want to get interceptions. They want to get sacks. They want to get turnovers to get the ball back to the offense to put the game out of reach. The problem is they haven't been able to get pressure at all this season, and all the chaotic plays, all the interceptions, those haven't really been happening so far this year because Trayvon Diggs has missed time, because DeRon Bland has missed time. You're not having all of your consistent starters in the defensive backfield. So it makes playing defense a whole lot more difficult if you can't rush the passer to help your secondary, and your secondary can't hold up enough in zone coverage for the pass rush to get home. So it's sort of like you're asking two separate questions that you don't really have the answer to right now when it comes to personnel. I think Matt Eberflus is going to have to change up a little bit of what he does. They play a lot of zone coverage. They don't really blitz. I think they're going to have to start trying to force the issue if they want to try and get this defense to a level that is at least deep playoff run level.
No, I think that's right, JP. And here's the thing, Haley. When you look at the stats, whether advanced or just traditional, the Cowboys usually last defensively in just about everything you could think of, and probably some categories you can't, whether it's against the run, whether it's against the pass, whether it's in the red zone. You certainly know. By the way, JP mentions they're terrible against rushing the quarterback. There's only a player that could help them.
If only there was a generational talent that knows how to get to the quarterback that used to wear a star on his helmet, Ryan Wilson. If only.
So, right, and JP's point about maybe mixing things up, what's the worst thing that can happen if you start blitzing more if you're Matt Eberflus? Nothing. You're still going to give up 35 points a game. The only question becomes, do you get home a few times? Do you create some of those turnovers that have been lacking over the first 7 weeks? Because you know what Dak and that offense is going to bring. If you can get 1.5 or 2 more stops a game defensively, I would imagine that increases your win probability. It could be like 10 to 15%. So those are the little things you're trying to figure out how to change and perhaps give yourself a leg up when you're up against it, because you are going to battle against a team. If you think about it, like you're going up against a battle of 5,000 people and you have 50 guys out there. You got to figure out strategic ways to win and just mixing it up. What's the worst thing that can happen given that you're down so many players, whether they're star players like Micah Parsons or just guys due to injury in that secondary?
Look at this throwback Bears logo, by the way, as you take a look at the defenses ranked first, or teams rather ranked first in total offense, last in total defense. The Cowboys, obviously a part of that list. They are giving up the third most points per game this season at just over 29. So things are not good. That leads us to a game pick. We're going to kind of split this up. JP, I'll come to you first here. You're going to give us an overall pick here between the Broncos and the Cowboys. Who's winning this game in your opinion?
Whenever there's a great offense going against a great defense and then a not so great offense going up against the worst defense in the NFL, I sort of tend to lean on the team that has the not so great offense going against the worst defense in the NFL. So I'm going to pick the Broncos here. I do think Denver is uniquely equipped to sort of slow down this offense for the Cowboys, because they don't not only have Patrick Surtain, who's probably going to travel with CeeDee Lamb, but I think Riley Moss has played really well this season, and they have the pass rush to really frustrate this offensive line and sort of get after Dak Prescott. And then against this Cowboys defense, I feel like Sean Payton is going to find a way to scheme guys open. He's always scheming guys open, so I feel like the Broncos win, but it's going to be a little bit close for the first 3 quarters.
Okay, don't love that. Ryan, if I give you the specs of this game, the Broncos are favored. They are at home, minus 3.5 there. The point total is set at 51. You're picking this one against the spread, so give us some more positive news for me on this side.
Yeah, I'll thread the needle. I'll take the Cowboys to cover plus 3.5. I think they can actually win this game. And JP talked about it. I don't know. I know what's going to happen with Patrick Surtain because he's always played at an elite level. I will take George Pickens versus Riley Moss every day of the week. If that just means 3 jump balls, George is going to catch 1.5 to 2 of those, and that's going to put you in position on the right side of the field to perhaps turn that into points. The question is, can you slow up even a mediocre Broncos offense? The answer is probably no. So it's going to have to be a shootout. We're going to have to see something north of 35-ish points if you're Dak Prescott. I think they can get there. Worst case, I'll have them cover just in case to cover my bases. But I'm really enjoying the way this Cowboys offense has played so far this season.
Listen, George Pickens is going to hurdle whoever he has those jump balls on. He's going to catch it and then hurdle the players. No one's going to be guarding Jake Ferguson. I'm taking the Cowboys here just because I can. Fellas, appreciate the time. Always look forward to chatting football with you. For more on the NFL draft side of things, make sure you hang out with Ryan Wilson on With the First Pick podcast. They are prepping you for the draft 365 days of the year. You can scan that QR code to get locked in right now.